Hi everyone, welcome to Appliance Advisors. I'm Francesco, joined by Dennis. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of talking about what we're talking about, we want to show you and give you more of a visual to help you hopefully learn a little bit more. So today we're going to talk about a really common question that we often get, and that is really talking about the differences of American versus European dishwashers.
Yeah, we thought today maybe a visual would drive those key points across. The first thing that we always point out and ask, and that's why we design the stores this way, is to show the visual difference. It's very obvious, okay? European dishwashers are flush with your cabinets. Standard cabinets are 24 inches deep down below, and they're generally 23 3/4 in a European dishwasher. So you have a nice clean aesthetic. If you're doing inset cabinets or you really want that clean line, it's something you should really pay attention to. American dishwashers stick out. They're generally roughly 25 to 26 inches in physical depth, not including the handle. So you certainly are going to get a much bigger side profile. Now, a lot of people don't understand that coming in because they're looking at their current dishwasher and they just know they want to replace it. They hate it. They don't like it. They want something new. So when we bring out, we really want to let them know the differences, because when you install this new dishwasher and spent all this money, or even further yet, you do a new kitchen and you want it to just be beautiful, now all of a sudden the depths of these things make matters even more polarizing when you're looking at it. So there's number one. Would be the depth. What's another option?
Well, on that same topic with the depth, it's really important, one, just for the aesthetics, even when you're talking about just plain stainless steel, but when you're doing a custom wood front, you absolutely want to make sure you're looking at European, because you don't want that wood front sticking out past all your other cabinets. Kind of defeats the purpose of kind of doing that in the first place. So just kind of taking a step back also. So that's a really important differentiating factor between them. But let's just talk about some of the brands, like what is American and what is European. American dishwashers, typically you're talking about brands like GE, KitchenAid, LG, brands like that. When you're talking about European, you're really looking at Bosch, Miele being really the two kind of big players in that space there. And another big difference kind of between American and European dishwashers, so we talked about the size, the depth really of that, but other factors really kind of from a feature perspective is drying. Can you talk about maybe some of the differences on how they dry dishes?
Certainly. And there's been a migration to what we always considered European drying. So American dishwashers, classically, they dry dishes quite well. But how they did that is they had a heating element. Think of it as the same element that's in the bottom of your electric oven. And basically what that's doing is it's taking the hot water your home would give it, and then it's compensating and drying by putting this heating element on constantly and really baking your dishes dry. Now, while it had a good result, it was very inefficient. And sometimes that's when you used to remember plastics and whatnot would melt. So really, Europeans, as they started to really enter in mass into the United States market, they operate very differently. What they do is they're going to take the hot water that your home gives it, which generally is around 120, 130 degrees, depending on what you have it set in your home. And then it's going to boost it and boost it up to roughly 160, 163 degrees, depending on the model. And it traps that hot air. And it does it by having stainless steel interiors, and that water pulls to the steel, and that trapped hot energy it's created is what it uses to dry. So it's really using condensation, a very efficient way to dry. Now, it's important to note, because one of the things we'll talk about is the drying of all these dishwashers in another episode, and we'll clue you in on how to really use it if you do choose to pick a European. But that's really one of the main differences, that drying, and really people need to understand, kind of where they fall in line there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we always talk about too, it's like, sometimes you get customers that come in and they're replacing that old 20-year-old KitchenAid or Hobart dishwasher from way back in the day. And, all those were, like you talked about the efficiency, nothing today, whether it's American or European, even those American dishwashers that have a heating element, those are also more efficient today than they used to be. So they're not going to dry the same ways. And we'll get into some of the tips and tricks and what to look for. But the European dishwashers today, a lot of them, different brands, have different kind of features on their own that help with that drying and assist to get a better dry. But just know, an American dishwasher, just because it has that heating element, isn't really going to necessarily dry better than even a European dishwasher. European dishwashers also kind of just on average tend to be more efficient because of the way they heat, more efficient also with the amount of water that they use. So typically more water efficient and a little bit more energy efficient there too.
Yeah, and that's important to note. Fran had made mention that, all appliances today, like all things generally, tend to improve with time. they do get better and they are more efficient than what you had. But we try to keep things really simple and grounded. And when you're doing this, understand this. All dishwashers are going to wash your dishes, and most will do a pretty good job drying. There's some that may do better, and look for other episodes for us to talk about that. But I think in its most simplistic form, the first thing you need to think about is that aesthetic value, and if one's going to bother you, if it's sticking out versus looking flush. And then you kind of make your other decisions as you go around, looking at racking, cycles, features, so on and so forth. I think you'll land on a good one either way if you do your homework and you really think about how you're going to use it.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for this episode of American versus European dishwashers.
And don't forget to follow us on social media for appliance tips and updates from Yale Appliance.
Your feedback is what shapes our series. Like what you saw? Give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you.
Stay informed and inspired on all your appliance needs. This is Appliance Advisors signing off.